Happy Fitness Friday, everyone!
Happy Fitness Friday, folks! We are thrilled to be here, as always, on Fitness Friday this week to share with you how to use HIIT ratios.
Yes, I am Dr. Ayla Donlin.
And I'm Emily Sopo.
We're your MyZone Master Trainers. Emily and I are certified group exercise instructors, personal trainers. We have our educational backgrounds in kinesiology, and I have a doctoral degree in educational leadership. We really enjoy collaborating to bring you content live here every Friday on Fitness Friday, as well as via our blogs and hosting the MyZone Moves podcast as well.
Oh yes. On that note, resources that are available to you, so many of them, guys. If you go to myzone.org and scroll down the homepage, you will see our faces. If you click on our faces, you can access the MyZone blog, where we give you all sorts of tips and tricks on using MyZone to really optimize your fitness. You can also learn more about MyZone, of course, on the MyZone Facebook page. If you're live, that's where you are now, or on the MyZone Moves YouTube channel, where we house all of our previous broadcasts.
Yes, a lot of resources. Speaking of which, this particular topic, HIIT ratios and how to use them, is posted on the blog. So if you want to follow along, you are more than welcome to.
Yes.
Our theme at MyZone for the month of February is HIIT training, high intensity interval training. And this particular broadcast and blog is all about HIIT ratios and how to put them together in a way that's appropriate for you. Good morning, Sue.
Hey, Sue. Guys, as you're tuning in, please let us know who you are, where you're tuning in from, and if you've done your workout today already, tell us what you did.
Yes.
Hey, Coach B. Hey, Leisure Opportunities.
Very cool.
Great to have you all.
I dig it. What a great way to optimize your fitness experience indeed.
Yes.
I like that. Okay, and as we get into this topic, if you have questions, as always, we welcome them. And many of you last week weighed in on what type of high-intensity interval training you like and enjoy. That was awesome. Keep that coming. And any questions you have related to HIIT training, we would love to field those for you. And that will help us shape future broadcasts and blogs. For the topic today, you all know, I think we said this last week, that high-intensity interval training is ranked as the #1 fitness trend worldwide. So we are staying on that curve and bringing you the latest and greatest information about high-intensity interval training. We're going to first define what HIIT training is, and then we're going to get into the ratios and help you map those out.
Most definitely. Good morning, Kay Donlin.
Yes, from snowy Iowa.
And
I know
Camilla, thank you so much for joining us from Sweden. That's so cool.
Yeah, we love that you guys tune in.
Yes. All right. So what is high-intensity interval training, aka HIIT? HIIT consists of periods of work and rest, and you're looking at different time intervals for each, which is the topic for today, which we'll get into. But essentially it's work and recovery. In terms of MyZone, you're going to be working in the yellow and the red zone, if you're familiar with MyZone's 5 color-coded zones, and you'll be recovering in probably the green or the blue zone, so alternating the hot and the cooler colors.
Yes.
The duration of each interval is really going to vary, and we'll get into some details of that, but it's going to really be based on the number of intervals you're doing, your fitness level, your fitness goals, all sorts of things. So you can mix it up in a lot of really fun ways to keep it exciting.
Yes.
In general, though, when performing high-intensity interval training, research indicates that your duration of each interval should be between 15 seconds to about 2 to 3 minutes. So as you can see, we're not going for incredibly long periods of time when performing these different durations. The total duration of a high-intensity interval training session should be between about 30 to 60 minutes. Note that that includes a warm-up and a recovery. So you're probably only doing the actual HIIT portion for, what would you say, Ayla, like 20, 30, maybe 40 minutes?
Yeah,
Not
tops.
a super long time.
Right. And that is one of the advantages of doing high-intensity interval training, is that because you're working at higher intensities, the workout doesn't need to be as long.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the ratios. As Emily said, we break up a high-intensity interval into a work phase and a recovery phase, and your HIIT ratio is the work to recovery. So for example, if you are pushing for 60 seconds and you're aiming to hit yellow and red by the end of that work phase, and then you're recovering for 60 seconds and aiming to hit green or blue by the end of the recovery phase, your HIIT ratio is 1-to-1, work to recovery. As you are beginning a HIIT program, we would recommend that you start with a longer recovery phase than work phase. And maybe that would be like a 1 to 3. So you're working for, let me say it this way, you're recovering for 3 times as long, or kind of twice as long as you're pushing. A specific example of that would be you'd push for 15 seconds and recover for 45. So that you're giving yourself the ability to recover as you need to be able to push as hard as you can during the work phase, because that's our goal. Our goal is to push or work as hard as we can during the work phase and recover as much as possible during the recovery phase.
Yeah.
Now, the number of sets of intervals that you are going to perform should depend on how long you can continue to hit your target zones. So if you're aiming for hitting yellow or red by the end of the work phase and hitting green or blue by the end of the recovery phase, so long as you can continue to hit those targets, then maybe you can perform anywhere from 8 to 12 sets depending on the durations of your intervals. So you're going to need to listen to your body. What's great about the MyZone system is you can literally be monitoring if you are accomplishing the mission that you have set before yourself to hit the yellow and red and then to recover to green and blue.
Yes, yes. If you check out the blog that has been posted on myzone.org, you're going to see a ton of different progressions if you're starting out with high intensity interval training. I know you wrote this one, Ayla. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
I do, but before we get into that, a discussion that Emily and I were having before we started the broadcast, we wanted to tell you, when we lay out work to recovery and we lay out our target zones, like hitting yellow or red on the work and hitting green or blue on the recovery, think of it as hitting those targets by the end of that particular phase. So you may not be in yellow or red. If you're pushing for 60 seconds, you may not be in yellow or red for the full 60 seconds that you're in your work phase. And then if you're aiming for green or blue on the recovery phase, you might not get there until later or at the end of the recovery phase. So you may be in yellow or red for a minute or more, and then you may be in green or blue for a minute or more, but it might not match exactly what you've outlined as the work and the recovery phase.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think so. I think the idea here is that your heart rate has to transition.
Yeah.
And so you can't just, we're at the end of the minute, now we're in the green or blue, right? We have to allow our heart rate to increase and decrease progressively.
So again, the bottom line would be by the end of the work phase, you're in your target zone, and by the end of the recovery phase, you're in your target zone.
Totally.
Okay, so to outline for you a little bit, and again, this is in the blog, a progression of work to recovery on the HIIT ratios. It's laid out for a 5-month progression, so this is going to keep you busy for quite some time. And we've started out with weeks 1 through 4 being a 1 to 3 work to recovery ratio, and then gradually progressing 1 to 2, 1 to 1, 2 to 1, 3 to 1. So as you get more fit and as you become more familiar and proficient with HIIT training, you can get to a status where you are working for 3 times as long as you're recovering. And it's hard. So the example at the end is pushing for 90 seconds, a minute and a half, and recovering for 30 seconds. I mean, this morning I did some HIIT training on the treadmill, and I was running, so working for 1 minute, and then I was recovering for 30 seconds. So that's a 2 to 1 work to recovery ratio. And I think I did a total of 6 or 7 intervals, and that was plenty. So again, as long as you're hitting the target zones, you can determine how many sets you'd be doing.
Yeah. It's intense. Good job.
Yeah, hey, it's good.
All right, so let's go over some sample HIIT sessions, shall we?
Yes.
There are sessions that we'll cover for beginners, so less than 3 months of consistent fitness training. Intermediate, around 6 months of consistent fitness training.
I like how you combine it.
Fitness
training.
Be fit. And advanced exercisers, 6 months or more of consistent fitness training. Here we go. As I drop my entire...
Let me know if you need some backup.
Oh, but
I got you right here, girl.
I lost all my papers.
Don't you love Fridays?
Go for it, Ayla.
Okay, so the beginner.
Here.
That's you, girl.
Thank you.
Hit it.
Okay, so for the beginner HIIT session, we'll work with a 1-to-3 work to rest ratio. So you're recovering much longer than you are actually working. The total duration of this workout is 24 to 31 minutes, including the warm up and the cool down. So again, you're not doing HIIT for the whole duration of that time. Begin with a warm-up of 5 to 10 minutes in the blue or the green zone, working your way progressively up. We've done a lot of videos about warm-ups. You can check them out on the YouTube channel. For the conditioning period, this is where we get into the HIIT portion. Using a cardio or muscular fitness modality of your choice. You can be treadmill, swimming, jogging, hiking, whatever, dancing. Yes. Perform 8 intervals of 30 seconds of work and 90 seconds of recovery. Aim for the yellow or the red zone during the work phase and the green zone during the recovery phase. Again, 30 seconds on, 90 seconds off. For the cool down for 3 to 5 minutes in the blue and the gray zone.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's a fast one, 24 to 31 minutes. Well, bam, you're in, you're out, you're done.
If you haven't worked out yet on Friday, guys,
that one's for you.
this is your chance.
It again. All right, so then as you progress and you've been exercising for around 6 months, or you're getting more familiar with HIIT training, and you consider yourself an intermediate HIIT trainee, then you can use a 1-to-1 work to recovery ratio. What's mapped out in the blog is a workout that'll take you about 23 to 30 minutes. Like Emily was saying, for the beginner, start out with a 5 to 10 minute warm up in the blue or the green. We always recommend using movements that mimic what you'll do in your conditioning period. So that's a nice way to organize your warm up.
Good point.
Then in the conditioning period, you can use cardio, muscular fitness, whatever suits your fancy that day. You'll perform 5 intervals of 60 seconds of work, 60 seconds of recovery, aiming for yellow on the work phase and green or blue on the recovery, probably green. And then another 5 intervals of 30-30s, 30 seconds of work, 30 seconds of recovery. So intervals 1 through 5 are 60-60s, and then 6 through 10 are 30-30s. Then cool down for 3 to 5 minutes in the blue or the gray zone.
And that's fun because you're switching the amount of time, the duration of the intervals, but sticking with the same ratio. Because I don't know about you, but I get kind of bored sometimes.
Sure.
I want to keep it exciting. So with my zone and the variety, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, and Coach B made a good point. He said that the MyZone app has a great HIIT timer.
Yeah.
So you can utilize that, and that's really nice because when you're doing HIIT training, eventually your brain is going to want to like check out a little bit. It's not going to want to be thinking specifically about time. So if you have a timer, that's nice.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. You can access that on the workout portion of the MyZone app, guys. Okay, the advanced high-intensity interval session training 2-to-1 ratio. You're working twice as long as you're recovering. The total duration of this workout is 21 to 28 minutes, including the warm-up and the cool-down. Start with a 5 to 10 minute warm-up in the blue and the green zones, as we've been saying. For the conditioning period, using a cardio or muscular fitness modality of your choice, perform 4 intervals of 40 seconds of work and 20 seconds of recovery, followed by 4 intervals of 60 seconds of work, 30 seconds of recovery, and also 4 intervals of 30 seconds work, 15 seconds recovery. So that's 12 intervals total.
A lot of variety on that one.
Of different durations. Very cool. All within that 2-to-1 ratio. Aim for yellow and red during the work phase and blue or green during the recovery phase. Although, folks, green's probably going to be more realistic when you're doing a 2-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, and they're this short like this.
Yeah. So that's definitely a fun one. For the cool down, do 3 to 5 minutes in the blue and the gray zones.
Yeah.
And then go cheer yourself on that
Exactly.
you did that.
Go give someone a high five or a chest bump or something, you know? Be sure you know who it is before you do that. So another thing, Emily, that I was thinking of, what do you think? I'm curious about your opinion. I've been thinking a lot about what's more difficult. Is it more difficult to do shorter duration work and recovery or longer duration work and recovery? Say the ratio is consistent, so it's 1-to-1. Is it more challenging to do 60-60s or 30-30s or 20-20s? And I personally have experienced that it's more challenging to do a shorter duration. I think 20-20s are harder.
I actually like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the shorter ones.
Yeah.
So for me, that's a little bit easier because it's like, all right, I did 20 seconds of work, now it's over. It's coming up faster, but it's,
Yes.
at least I get through it.
Yeah. I don't know if it's that because it's shorter. I feel like I'm working maybe harder during the
Maybe.
work phase. And so it's from a physiological perspective,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm exerting a little more.
Yeah. I think what that conversation just shows, though, guys, is that there's so many different options, and it really can be based on personal preference. So play around with these different ratios and durations and see what works best for you.
Exactly. And there's so many ways you can mix things up.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most fun parts about HIIT training.
Absolutely.
Have some fun with it.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, you can learn words. You can learn more about MyZone at myzone.org or on the MyZone Moves YouTube channel or on the MyZone Moves podcast, all over social media.
Yeah. Lots of options available to you. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your HIIT training. Keep us posted on what you're doing. Use the hashtags MyZoneMoves, hashtag effort rewarded. And as always,
Keep
keep
moving
moving
forward.
forward. You could hashtag that too.
Yeah.
Hashtag keep moving forward.
Bye, guys.